Okay, so it seems that we have some pretty interesting news coming from SAG-AFTRA and the whole video game strike and, Hoyoverse in general, everything like that. And this is coming from Jeff Keighley, who is the owner of the Game Awards and the Summer Games Fest, which we saw just the other day. And essentially, he said that SAG-AFTRA and video game employers have reached a tentative agreement. And now, obviously, people saying finally pay them and let us get their voices back in the game, which... Thank God they finally actually managed to figure something out, because we thought this was never going to happen. Obviously we've seen over the past couple of days, SAG-AFTRA were actually offered their final and best contract, and they actually had to they didn't have to turn it down, but, SAG-AFTRA ended up turning it down, despite having some pretty good kind of deals in there. And, well, it seems like now that has changed, and now they've reached an agreement. I don't know if they reached an agreement based on the previous agreement, the final and best one, or if they negotiated even further. But the people are saying, in the r/Genshin Impact subreddit, I mean, that is great, but I thought it was already established that even if they do reach an agreement of any kind, that anything Hoyo related wouldn't be affected either way, since Hoyo wasn't formally struck. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me, which is definitely true. They say the union would presumably be less obnoxious about trying to pressure people to withhold work when there's no strike on. They say Global Rule 1 still exists. No, which again, they say Global Rule 1 has existed for years now, and it hasn't stopped them till now. Now, yeah, I do think that is a big factor. I feel like, obviously, due to Genshin Impact not being actually, formally struck, this doesn't actually change anything much with the Hoyoverse games and with Genshin Impact games. But we could see the return of a lot of voice actors coming to these games due to the fact of, these strikes being over, them not being pressured to go on strike any further. And I think we will see a big influx of people coming back to Genshin Impact, coming back to a lot of the other games where, these struck voice actors, or I say struck voice actors, but these voice actors that are essentially taking a little holiday have been. And, obviously they will be potentially coming back. Now, we haven't heard any kind of response from the voice actors themselves about what they're planning on doing now that this, has actually come out, and now that they've reached an agreement on this kind of contract. But I think it's kind of crazy, Obviously, we keep on going as well. Let's go down to here and say, Corina, please don't come back. Insert nervous giggle here, which again is going to be interesting because obviously Corina actually mentioned on their interview the fact that, they weren't going to come back to Genshin Impact unless Genshin Impact turns union, which again hasn't happened. The union and, SAG-AFTRA and video game employers have reached an agreement, but it doesn't necessarily mean the Genshin Impact's gone union or anything. They've just reached an agreement, which could see, Corina not coming back. And maybe there are even some other voice actors, mixed into that also might not come back unless they turn union, which again is obviously going to cause even more disruptions to the game. But I'm hoping that some people have a little bit more common sense and actually do just come back to the game and voice it, because it is currently running it to the ground. Genshin Impact with the Dance Lift quest, everything like that, which was unvoiced, or, well, is at least in Japanese. So, it seems like Dance Lift's voice actor won't be in that quest itself. It's just slowly ruining the game. One of the best, quests that is supposed to be in Genshin Impact is ruined due to the fact of a voice actor just not coming into work, which is crazy. And they say, she did say she would refuse to come back until a SAG contract is signed, which again, so if she did come back, she would be a hypocrite, but everyone already knows she has no problems with being labeled a hypocrite, so who knows. Again, she said she would refuse to come back until a SAG contract is signed. That's slightly wrong. Obviously, she said she would come back if they turned union, which is something slightly different. SAG contract and SAG making an agreement is different to Genshin Impact turning union. We already know they're a massive hypocrite. Again, they're just talking about the fact that, they are a hypocrite. See, and based on what we're told, this will have absolutely no effect on their work refusal with Hoyo unless SAG suddenly decides to look the other way about Global Rule 1, now that an agreement has been reached. They say, trusting the word after all of this they pulled, need to actually see it first. And who's to say that the VAs are still going to continue to sit on their hands in an increasingly vain attempt to turn Genshin Impact into a union? I am buying it. Genshin Impact slowly moving on from American VAs, and hope that stays that way. They say, good, Hoyo and most companies just need to stop looking at America, Canada, the EU, and even English speakers in Japan. The USA does not own the English language, broaden your horizons, and find the best English fit for a character globally, which I definitely think is true. I think this has also provided a great opening for a lot of voice actors over in the UK and other places that maybe not haven't had as much of a chance because, the US has built up this massive rapport and kind of notability for being, this powerhouse in terms of film, video games, and voice acting. And now it's actually making these companies look out to other kind of countries where they can source it. Now, obviously, it sucks for USA voice actors, but also it's really great for people that are living in the UK trying to make it as a voice actor, and even other places as well that are trying to make it as a voice actor, because again, it can be a little bit more sparse here. Now, obviously, they keep going saying information from the SAG site as well. Again, also I find it odd that their president is Fran Drescher from The Nanny. I don't know what they said about that. Friendly reminder that SAG has blocked non-American countries from accessing their website. As said, some countries can access it. I can't, as I'm from Mexico. I can actually access this now. I wasn't able to access the site before, but essentially, yeah, here's the actual article here. They're saying, yeah, they've come to a deal. But again, in terms of Genshin Impact and Hoyoverse, this really changes nothing, which kind of sucks. It sounds again, it's weird. They've actually left some copies down there, which is nice to see. They say none of this matters until I see a new name for the Paimon role, hopefully before 5.7. Amen. So again, it seems like all the people are mad at here is, Paimon and the voice actor for Paimon and getting them kind of changed. Because again, it's a big problem. They say strike Global War 1. Both are separate, by the way. Global War 1 still stands even if the strike ends. Their main goal is to turn Hoyo into SAG project. AI protection is just an excuse. So again, I doubt this is going to change much, as I said, in terms of this, due to the Global War 1 stuff. They're trying to make SAG-AFTRA turn union, which is probably why a lot of voice actors will just stay off and will actually interact with, Hoyoverse. But I feel like a lot of the pressure might be off, and some voice actors might cave and go back to the game. We don't really know yet, but it's just a matter of time before we see some individual kind of decisions from these voice actors come back. Because as you've seen from a lot of my videos, some of these voice actors are itching to get back. They're not happy with the current state of things. They're not happy with the amount of work that they're getting due to these strikes and due to everything that's going on, which obviously could cause an issue in the future and could cause, some of these voice actors to go back to the Hoyoverse games early, despite, the Global War 1 stuff still being in place and people still refusing to work. And again, I feel like now that they've had this contract in, I think it's time to go back to work, guys. I'm gonna be honest. But again, it seems like Corina has also been posting some stuff coping over on Twitter. This has been a repost from this person called Kit Harrison, and this person saying, seeing people who refer to SAG or any other labor union as mafia or bullies doesn't just strike me as the opinions I'd expect a child to have, but a fundamental depressing misunderstanding of how unions actually function. They exist to give power to people who do not have any individually. Brother has not seen what is going on in the space. I mean, labor union as mafia or bullies. Bullies, I would 100%, label a lot of the voice actors as that, as we saw with the Jacob Takanashi situation. You can't tell me that, them bombarding him in his replies and quote retweets and everything is not bullying. That is 100% bullying, and that's from professional voice actors like Corina, which is kind of ironic that they have actually reposted this post. Again, they continue going on, saying the idea that SAG is bullying people into signing contracts is so fundamentally flawed that I have to believe people who say it know they are lying. Clients can replace actors in an instant for any reason, even asking for discussions, but instead it is the fault of the union for even asking. Actors are completely at the mercy of the clients for the vast majority of the time. If your name is Troy Baker or Nolan North, maybe you could swing clout around to get concessions. If your name is Kit Harrison, you would be replaced. Under the protections of a union, everyone has guardrails. I have said this a million times, but SAG have had their flaws, as does every organization. I certainly do not like them tooting their horn while not even being a full member, because to live and work in the UK as an actor, I cannot do that. But a flawed union is better than no union. As it also, again, it's weird. I feel like saying that, the bullying and the kind of mafia mentality is not going on in those communities and, in and around the voice acting space at the moment is not happening. It's just completely disingenuous to say, especially with a lot of the kind of voice actors bullying. Now, to say that SAG is bullying people into signing contracts, I still think they are as well with these strikes. You know, I feel like that is kind of coercing someone into forcing a contract to be signed to get them to turn union. For example, like the Genshin Impact strikes we're seeing right now, or I say strikes, you know, the refusal to work, whatever you want to call it, you know, that is a universal kind of, you know, group of voice actors who are bullying this company into signing it. Now, obviously, it's up to the company whether they will be bullied or not. They can just go and say, all right, well, we're going to fire all of you, and then, you know, problem solved. Or, you know, they could be like, oh, okay, fine, we'll sign it because our voice actors are leaving. But it seems like Genshin Impact and Hoyoverse are stepping their foot down with this kind of stuff, which is good to see, because obviously they are fighting back against a lot of this kind of bullying behavior. And I just thought it's kind of funny to see that post reposted on Corina's thing, especially after a lot of the stuff that they've been doing over on Twitter and Blue Sky and places like that. But yeah, that's pretty much an update on the SAG-AFTRA situation at the moment. It's pretty crazy, and I wasn't really expecting this to kind of drop today, but it has, and this is about 6 hours old. So again, we'll have to wait and see if there's any kind of fallout from this or any, you know, updates to this situation. But if you guys did enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also, go over to GameStop, use my code KAZA, get 10% off. Again, they've got a ton of really cool stuff over there. I definitely recommend checking it out. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. That's all. See ya.